is Maheen Suhail, and I am a product designer working at Facebook on future technologies like artificial intelligence and virtual reality. I'm also a storyteller, and I have a lot of side projects that I'm really passionate about, such as Rangeen Pakistan, which I run on Instagram. I also am working on a podcast called Fake ID, and in addition to that, I'm also a filmmaker making a lot of travel and lifestyle films for very specific countries and cultures that I'm interested in. And lastly, I'm also a futurist. I enable companies, tech companies, and other companies that are interested in innovation, and I provide a lot of consultancy for those companies. So I'm a designer, a storyteller, and a consultant slash futurist. My journey started in Pakistan. I was born and raised in Lahore, Pakistan, and I moved to Canada when I was about 16, where I continued my studies in Waterloo, Ontario. And that was a really wonderful place to grow up in, because it was a very educated community, and they were very supportive in a lot of my side hustles. So that's where I really got into documentary filmmaking. One of the first documentaries I launched was when in high school I came as a Pakistani student, and I realized that the students around me were from war-torn countries and they didn't know how to speak English. So there were students from Afghanistan, Iran, and they would go into these English classes and they wouldn't be able to communicate with the teacher, and they would fall behind even though they were really intelligent. So I created a documentary called The Second Student, which was distributed to all the teachers around Canada, and they were able to sit there and listen to the messages from these ESL and ELL kids and realized that they could do really simple things just to accommodate these people who had language barriers. So that's really where my passion for storytelling came, that I wanted to take the stories of those who didn't have the opportunity to amplify it, and given my skills, I wanted to produce and share those stories out. So after high school, I decided to go into filmmaking, and I decided to come to Vancouver, British Columbia, because it's gorgeous, and because they had a program here called the School of Interactive Arts and Technology at Simon Fraser University. And that was a really interesting program to go to, because I learned about filmmaking, graphic design, computer programming, industrial design, architecture, everything. And from that, I realized that there is a new field emerging called product design. Product design is a field in tech companies that enables people to better use their products. So for example, if you open your phone, how do you know how to unlock that phone? Some product designer designed that feature so that it's usable. I really like to describe it using the ketchup analogy. For example, if there is a plastic ketchup bottle and a glass ketchup bottle, the glass ketchup bottle looks beautiful, but the plastic ketchup bottle is the one that actually gets the ketchup out. The glass ketchup bottle, there's always ketchup stuck and it doesn't come out. So a product designer helps make things usable, and that's really what my field is. So at Facebook, I got the opportunity after graduating from my program. In my program, I did a lot of leadership activities. I was the president of the School of Interactive Arts and Technology Student Union. I ran an NGO called Let's International, where we were trying to build technologies to revolutionize education, and we were working on building schools in Pakistan and building technologies in Uganda that could enable that. So I tried a lot of different things in university just to find what is it that I'm passionate about. And I decided to put a pause in everything so I could further my career and make the connections first. So during university, after I did all this NGO stuff, I decided to apply for internships. So I worked at Electronic Arts on the really popular game franchise called FIFA. So I built the console version as well as mobile games there. Then I went to Facebook, where I worked on virtual reality. So virtual reality is a headset you put on and it transports you into a new reality. So you can imagine, you know, being Iron Man and defeating the bad guys, or you could be a surgeon trying to learn new skills, or you could be meeting people during meetings, especially during the pandemic where you can't go in person. So it's a really incredible technology, but it's very new. So I built experiences for that. And then more recently, I've switched to artificial intelligence, where I'm building experiences that are powered by AI. And AI is all around us. Artificial intelligence is the technology that connects you to your Uber driver. It is the technology that recommends you the best restaurant on Yelp that's nearby. So it's all around you, and I'm trying to figure out how can I innovate 10 years from now for people so that their lives are easier. So that's what I do for a living. But I realized that while I was mentoring people and while I was on stage telling people about these technologies, that there was a missing piece, that the storytelling piece that I had in high school of elevating people's stories was lost in all of this technology. So I started thinking about how can I use my passion for technology, my passion for storytelling, and elevate these stories again. And that's where I started my current side projects. Rangeen Pakistan is the first one. So Rangeen Pakistan is an Instagram channel where I use AI to colorize old black and white photos of Pakistan. और ये मैं इसलिए करती हूँ because मैं काफ़ी black and white photos बचपन में मेरे घर में होती थी और partition के दौरान की वो photos हैं, कुछ बाद में हैं और उसमें काफ़ी leaders की भी photos हैं और उन photos में even though there's a lot of detail in the structure, उनकी कहानियाँ बाहर नहीं आती, they're missing. And I really wanted to go deeper into those photos and stories. I wanted to bring my family stories back. I wanted to bring the stories of the partition that my family went through to the rest of the world. And I wanted everyone to learn about my country, both India and Pakistan, and the roots of where this all came from. So I started Rangeen Pakistan, where using AI technology, I would convert these photos. So the structure is that there is a black and white photo of Jinnah, but then there is a beautiful colorized version of it. I use some public deep learning models, and where the color fails, I use my own research and my creative abilities to research that era and improve the colors. So उससे ये होता है कि जो लोग हैं जो उन photos को देखते हैं, whether they're from the South Asian community or not South Asian community, they're fascinated and they want to learn more, and I've learned so much more, and young kids who live here have learned so much more. So that's been a pleasure sharing that. So I've been doing that a lot, and it's not just with photos, I've also been doing it with videos. Very recently, I converted a lot of videos by Noor Jahan from back in the day when her videos used to be black and white. So that's been a really pleasure, sort of like talking to my dad and then kind of trying to combine his passions and his interests with my projects. So that's been really interesting. If you have any black and white photos or videos from that era, please send them to me. You can find me at rangeen.pakistan on Instagram, or you can go to my website, maheensuhail.com. So that's one project. The next project I'm working on is called Fake ID. Fake ID is a podcast that I started because मैंने अपनी ज़िंदगी में notice किया कि मैं पाकिस्तान में raise हो रही थी, and Canada, Waterloo, Vancouver, and then I moved to the United States. And there were so many things that just didn't fit. For example, if I was doing something very South Asian and it didn't fit into the Canadian community, it felt like a mismatch. Or if I was really interested in something that Canadians do, for example, skiing, not a lot of Pakistanis were doing that. And I started feeling this disconnect. People put you in a box. People expect you to be exactly that thing that your skin color or the country you were born in says you should be. And that's not true. We're all blends of these different stories and narratives of people that we meet. So I started Fake ID because I wanted to elevate stories of people who have gone through these journeys so they can inspire kids like me when I was younger that it is okay to be yourself. It is okay to live your story. And this is how I've struggled with my identity, and my identity is complicated. It's not simple. It's not as simple as I'm Pakistani and Canadian and that's it. It's I'm Pakistani who's interested in technologies, and I love Japan, and I do all these things, and that's who I am. So for the Fake ID podcast, I've been interviewing a lot of South Asian community as well as non-South Asian community, and they've been sharing their stories, and they've been fascinating. Like, I talked to, a family that had migrated to Vancouver in 1912, before the partition ever occurred, and their story is so different from any of the stories I know. Or I have talked to people who have never fit into any box, even though they're Pakistani, and over time they've learned how to embrace who they are and thrive off of that. So even for, any youngsters that are watching this, I would highly recommend thinking and talking to people about how they found their identity. It is so key in finding who you are and being confident in living your life. So please check out Fake ID. You can find Fake ID Podcast on Instagram, and it is launching in December. I would love to share more stories. If you're someone who has struggled with any of these things, please reach out. I'd love to feature you on here as well. So that's what I've been doing. And one very small side thing I've been doing is I love creating documentaries and travel films, and I've been learning Japanese for about 4 years. So I've been basically traveling and trying to create these film guides for anyone who's interested in Asian cultures to embrace and travel these countries as someone who lives there. I generally don't like it when people travel to a place and it's great to see the popular places, but to really understand a place, you have to connect with the people. You have to connect with the area, the community. And so I've been trying to start a series called Japan Travel Guide, where I'm enabling people to look at traveling with that lens and be able to learn how can they integrate into a community while they're traveling. So even if you're not interested in going to Japan, you can use that advice to travel Pakistan, India, a lot of the other countries. And so for that, you can go to YouTube and you can look up Japan Travel Guide or on Instagram. So those are all of my projects. And what's next for me is I'm going to continue running all of these projects. One day I want to be comfortable enough that I understand all the different types of stories people want to share. It's really important for me to elevate the South Asian community, to elevate the resilience that the South Asian community comes with. The resilience is key. And I find that the generation here today, because we're not surrounded by that resilience often, a lot of it is back home. It is important that I want to bring that resilience that I grew up around, but kind of lost when I got here. I want to create and make that connection stronger. So you'll see a lot more stories from me, and please reach out if there's any specific story you want to highlight. And other than that, other than the resilience piece and the storytelling, I'm still very much involved in product design and technologies like AR, VR, and AI. And my goal there is to also elevate the South Asian community to learn more about these technologies. This is the future. Like, it's coming whether you like it or not. And so it is amazing that if you are going into university today and you know you're excited by VR or artificial intelligence, learn those skills. Learn those skills while you're going into university. Don't be bogged down by taking all the courses that the university prescribes you. Yes, you need to take those to graduate, but this is the only time you'll get to learn. And I wish I had learned and realized that when I was in university. What privilege to be able to learn those while in university without having to launch a product into the world and have the weight of the world on your shoulders. So really try to enjoy that process. One of the things that I really love to make sure and ensure people know is that I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my parents. My parents, at a very young age, put me into public speaking. I was 7 years old on stage talking about the war in Iraq or why sons are not the only treasure. And this was only because my parents supported me and put me on that stage and platform, which is why I'm able to talk like this today. So everything I am today, I owe it to my parents. Every single point of the way, they've supported me. They've helped me, they've supported my dreams. If I'm working on side projects, if I'm working on my main field, they let me be and they let me go. And I understand this is a privilege not many people have. So the advice I have for kids who are struggling with that, well, first my advice would be for parents to understand that in a country like Canada, there are so many opportunities for your kids. And you need to let them explore. Because if you let them explore, not only will they be happy, but they will be successful. And I'm a classic example of that. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a doctor, but I would like to say that I am pretty successful in my field. And your kid will be too if you let them explore. They'll be happy. My advice for the kids who are trying to communicate this to their parents is you need to find role models. And you need to find role models in the community. So for example, if you're interested in product design, show them the work that I've done. If you're interested in architecture, I bet you there is a Desi person out there who is working on architecture. You just need to find those role models and share them with your parents and internalize it as well, because representation matters. You will know what you are capable of achieving if you see it in someone who looks like you. So often I get asked, what are some of the key skills that have helped me get to where I am? I would say public speaking has been one of them, so really push yourself out of your comfort zone and talk to people around you. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a story to tell. You could be in grade 9 and you have a story to tell. That's different from someone else who's in grade 9. So you have a story to tell and you should share that, whether it's on social media or whether that's on stage or whether that's in a written format. The second thing that has been really key for my career has been leadership. Our community requires a lot of leadership for us to grow as a community, for us to lead as a community, and for us to build things that are meaningful to our community. Leadership is something that you need where you have to be proactive. No one is going to come to you and tell you, can you do X, Y, Z? Leadership to me means you see a problem, you go fix it. And if you need help, you definitely ask for help, and you take people along with you, and you elevate other people with you. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the leadership of the people when I was younger. Think about the key moments in life when you've had that one person that helped you. It could be a teacher, it could be a family member, it could be someone at work. And they were just giving back, and they just helped you for no reason. They got nothing out of that. That is leadership. And leadership is also solving problems. So I highly recommend going into the work field with that mindset. And also integrity. I think that's the last skill that's really important. You have to be truthful. You can't mess around. For example, a quick example I'll give at university, kids tend to do this thing where they'll stop working or they're like, थोड़ा सा काम करके बस submit कर देंगे, or like या meeting में नहीं आएंगे या submit नहीं करेंगे. These things, the people that you're doing these projects with, one day you'll end up working with them. And they'll know how you performed at university. So no pressure, but you should be thinking about not cutting halfway, but rather putting your soul and energy into the work you do, because not only will you be happier, but it's going to pay off in the future. So integrity, leadership, and a lot of communication are some of the key skills that have helped me in my career and that I think can be helpful for anyone in any career.
उड़े जब जब जुल्फें तेरी, उड़े जब जब जुल्फें तेरी, कवारियों का दिल मचले, कवारियों का दिल मचले, जिंद मेरी ये लारा लप्पा लाई रखदा, अड्डी टप्पा पाई रखदा, लारा लप्पा लाई रखदा, अड्डी टप्पा पाई रखदा. मेरा फेवरेट गाना है, सॉरी. क्या किताब हो, जो भी हो तुम, खुदा की कसम लाजवाब हो, चौदहवीं का चांद हो, दर्द दिल में जगाया आपने, दर्द दिल ये चांद सा रोशन चेहरा, जुल्फों का रंग सुनहरा, ये झील सी नीली आंखें, कोई राज है इनमें गहरा। तारीफ करूं क्या उसकी जिसने तुम्हें बनाया, ओ तारीफ करूं क्या उसकी जिसने तुम्हें बनाया। क्या हुआ तेरा वादा, वो कसम वो इरादा, क्या हुआ तेरा वादा, वो कसम वो इरादा। भूलेगा दिल गाएगा जिस दिन तुम्हें, वो दिन जिंदगी का आखिरी दिन होगा। क्या हुआ तेरा वादा, वो कसम वो इरादा। भूलेगा दिल जिस दिन तुम्हें, वो दिन जिंदगी का आखिरी दिन होगा। क्या हुआ तेरा वादा, एहसान तेरा होगा मुझ पर, दिल चाहता है वो कहने दो मुझे, तुमसे मोहब्बत हो गई है मुझे, पलकों की छाँव में रहने दो। एहसान तेरा होगा मुझ पर। बड़ा समझाया तेनू समझ ना आया, कानू करदा ऐ दिलदारियां, तेरे ते गिलावे सानू पागला दिलावे, कानू ला लियां तू यारियां।
बड़ा समझाया तेनू समझ ना आया, कानों करदा ऐ दिलदारियां, तेरे ते गिलाए सानू पागला दिलावे, कानू ला लियां तू यारियां, ला लियां तू यारियां, ला लियां तू।
आजा दिल जानिया बेकार मेहरबानिया, ना दुखा नाल तोल वे, ना जिंद साडी रोल वे, कदी ते हस बोल वे, ना जिंद साडी रोल वे। अड्डियां तो की पाइयां झांजरां लौंग मारे लिशकारे, अड्डियां तो की पाइयां झांजरां लौंग मारे लिशकारे, कंगना तेरा नी सानू करे इशारे, कंगना तेरा नी सानू करे इशारे। अड्डियां तो की पाइयां झांजरां लौंग मारे लिशकारे, अड्डियां तो की पाइयां झांजरां कंगना तेरा नी सानू करे इशारे, कंगना तेरा नी सानू करे इशारे। मैं जदों तेरे खाबा वाली रात तुरया बड़ा ना मैं तो जावे मुड़िया, जिवे रहंदे पन्ने नाल पन्ने जुड़दे, मैं रवां तेरे नालों ना वांगू जुड़िया। लिखदा हुंदा सी तेरे बारे अड़िए, जाके पुछ ले गवाने तारे अड़िए, जे करदे मजाक ना हस लैण दे, जे तन कस दे उन्हां नूं कस लैण दे। मैं देखा तेरी फोटो सौ सवार कुड़े, मैं देखा तेरी फोटो सौ सवार कुड़े, मैं सुपने च आ ही जानी है, तू नींद उड़ा ही जानी है, सुपने च आ ही जानी है, नींद उड़ा ही जानी है, तू मिलो एक बार कुड़े, मैं देखा तेरी फोटो, 100 सवार कुड़े, मैं देखा तेरी फोटो, 100 सवार कुड़े। ऐसा है ये आलम, ये कोई न जाने, फिर क्यों है ये